Glynis Jones, Tony winner for Little Night Music, dies at 100.
Mary, leave me alone!
Oh, I can't leave the tail rope, not yet.
In a transatlantic career that endured for more than 60 years, she was also known for her role in the hit 1965 Disney movie Mary Poppins.
I bet it was love at first sight, right?
Will I ever learn not to match wits with our king?
Glynis Jones, the British actress who, in a transatlantic career that endured for more than 60 years, won a Tony Award for her role in A Little Night Music, giving husky, emotion-rich voice in the show's most memorable number, Send in the Clowns, and played an exuberant Edwardian suffragist in the Disney movie classic Mary Poppins, died on Thursday in Los Angeles. She was 100.
Don't you know anyone who'd be willing to marry you for a few days?
Glynis Jones, Tony winner for Little Night Music, last words before she died.
I love doing it. I felt it.
Everyone grieves in different ways. For some, it could take longer or shorter. I do know it never disappears. An ember still smolders inside me. Most days I don't notice it, but out of the blue, it will flare to life.
I got applause for that.
I won't. Sorry, my dear.
The death at an assisted living facility was confirmed by her manager, Mitch Clem. Miss Jones was 49 and on the brink of her fourth divorce when the Stephen Sondheim musical A Little Night Music opened at the Schubert Theater in February 1973. The New York Times described her character, Desire Armfeld, as a slightly world-weary and extremely love-wise actress in turn-of-the-century Sweden. The critics adored her. To Clive Barnes of the Times, the misty-voiced and glistening-eyed Glynis Jones was all tremulous understanding. To Walter Kerr, also writing in the Times, she was that cousin of bullfrogs and consort of weary gods. She was discreet, dangerous, and gratifyingly funny. When she received the award for Best Actress in a Musical at the 1973 Tony Awards presentation, she thanked the show's whole company, who have given me back a joy that I had lost in the theater. Before then, she had been best known as a very different sort of character. In Mary Poppins, Disney's award-winning 1965 family musical, Miss Jones was Mrs. Banks, an enthusiastic wife, mother, and political activist in 1910 London. While her two small children were having adventures with their supernatural nanny, memorably played by Julie Andrews, Mrs. Banks was putting on a sash that said "Votes for Women" and making plans to throw things at the Prime Minister. Miss Jones's easy versatility suggested that she might have been born to act, but it had not been her only passion, as she told the Los Angeles Times in 1991. "I wanted to be a scientist," she said. "I would have loved to go on and on and on at the university, but you can't do everything in life. And I did not have any choice at the time," she added. World War II broke out when I was 16. Glynis Margaret Payne Jones was born on October 5, 1923, in Pretoria, South Africa, where her parents, both of whom were artists, were on tour. Her father, Mervyn Jones, was a Welsh actor who went on to a prolific London theatre and film career. He was perhaps best known as Bob Cratchit in the 1951 British film Scrooge, released as A Christmas Carol in the United States. Her mother, Alice Maud Still Warham Jones, who was Australian, was a concert pianist who played under the stage name Alice Still Payne. Glynis studied at the London Ballet School from the age 5. When she made her stage debut in the children's play Bucky's Bears at 12, she became the fourth generation on her mother's side to make a career in the theater, and she grew up on stage. In 1936, she was the troublemaking schoolgirl who drove the plot in Lillian Hellman's play The Children's Hour. A year later, she played the fairy tale heroine in A Kiss of Cinderella. In 1943, she played the title role in Peter Pan. She made her film debut in South Riding, 1938, as Rolfe Richards's daughter. She acted in a war drama, 49th Peril, 1941, starring Laurence Olivier. In An Ideal Husband, 1947, she was Oscar Wilde's frivolous and spirited Mabel Chiltern. When Miss Jones movies were shown in the United States, they were met with genuine, if faint praise. Of Miranda, 1949, a comedy about mermaid who wanted to see London, Bosley Crowther wrote in The Times, Glynis Jones is bewitching. One half of her is, at least, as the coyly, flirtatious, finny creature. When she returned in State Secret 1950 with Douglas Fairbanks Jr., Mr. Crowther found her very saucy and explosive as music hall girl. Exactly when she made her Hollywood screen debut in A Matter of Opinion, No Highway in the Sky, 1951, in which she played a soft-spoken and very military-looking flight attendant, was a 20th Century Fox picture that starred James Stewart but was filmed in England. She also made 2 Disney films abroad that were British co-productions. In The Sword and the Rose, 1953, she played Henry VIII's little sister and Rob Roy, 1953, the Scottish freedom fighter's wife. The Court Jester, 1956, with Danny Kaye, was definitely American, albeit set in a medieval European castle. Miss Jones was an alluring but determined spy who needed to know whether the pellet with the poison is in the vessel with the pestle. And when push came to shove, she confidently operated the castle catapult. She appeared in more than a dozen Hollywood movies, showing aristocratic restraint as often as rowdy working-class enthusiasm. Miss Jones was a proper turn off the 20th century Southern belle fed up with her exasperating husband, Jackie Gleason, and the comedy Papa's Delicate Condition, 1963, and a loquacious Australian innkeeper in The Sundowners, 1960, which starred Robert Mitchum and Deborah Kerr, and for which she received an Academy Award nomination. In addition to playing the London suffragist in Mary Poppins 1965, she was the comic relief in the Chapman Report 1962, a 19th century Scottish immigrant in the drama All Mine to Give 1957, James Stewart's wife in Dear Bridget 1965, a comedy about a math prodigy and an author having too much fun to finish her book in Don't Just Stand There 1968. Proud of her Welsh heritage, she appeared in Under Milkwood, 1971, a British film version of the poet Dylan Thomas's radio play that starred and was partly narrated by Richard Burton. As My Fanway Prize, a Welsh fishing village dressmaker and sweet shop owner, she fantasized passionately about the draper of the other side of town. In The Rev, 1994, she was Kevin Spacey's disagreeable mother. And While You Were Sleeping, 1995, she was the Comatose hero's fragile grandmother. Her last film was Superstar, 1999, a comedy in which she played Molly Shannon's take charge grandmother who ran over a priest in her motorized wheelchair. On American television, she was a mystery writer in a brief series of her own, Glynis, 1963, and played well-dressed chauffeur-driven mother of Diane Chambers on an episode of Cheers. In the 1982 miniseries Little Gloria, Happy at Last, she was Gloria Vanderbilt's mother's mother, a vibrant flapper of a certain age. But Miss Jones had begun her career on the stage and she returned to it often. She made her Broadway debut in Gretai, 1952, earning favorable reviews, quietly humorous in everything she does, say The Times, but the play closed after 5 performances. She won over Broadway audiences in the title character of George Bernard Shaw's Major Barbara, 1956, a menicious heiress working in a Salvation Army shelter starring with Charles Laughton. The Times' Brooks Addington declared the production a standoff between Laughton and Shaw, but the Daily News called the comedy one of the best in many seasons. On the Broadway, she was in a second Shaw play, Too True to Be Good, 1963, with Lillian Gish. In London, her stage roles include Anne of Cleve in The King's Mare, 1966, the Alma Rattenbury, a notorious 1930s murderer, in Cause Célèbre, 1977. In the early 1970s, she did an international tour playing England, the United States, and Australia in Noel Coward's romantic comedy, The Marquis. Her final appearance on Broadway, opposite Rex Harrison in his last stage production, was in W. Somerset Maugham comedy The Circle, 1989. Miss Jones was married and divorced 4 times. Her first husband from 1942 to 1948 with Anthony Forwood, a British actor. She was then married to David R. Foster, 1952 to 56, and Cecile Henderson, 1960 to 62. Both businessmen, and finally to Elliot Arnold, 1964 to 73, an American feature writer and novelist. Her only child, a son, Garrett Forwood, died in 2007. She is survived by a grandson and 3 great-grandchildren. She was a longtime resident of Los Angeles. Maybe it was just as well that Faith had pushed her into show business. In her youth, she was quoted as saying in a 1973 article in The Times, she had wanted to lead what I thought as a normal existence, but as soon as I found I wasn't as normal, away from the theater as in it. She concluded, acting is my highest form of intelligence, the time when I use the best part of my brain.